In Cortina d'Ezzo, Mikaela Shiffrin stood atop the Duccio slope and gazed down at the mountain that had attempted to shatter her just 3 days before. The globe watched throughout the last week of the Milano Cortina Games, the most devastating interview of Mikaela Shiffrin's career. She said to the world that she didn't think she would ever be faster after placing an incredible 11th in the giant slalom. She seemed worn out. She seemed to be defeated. She also seemed fragile for the first time in her decade-long domination. Her athletic epitaph was already being written by critics, who referred to it as the end of the Shiffrin era. The collective sigh of an American audience that thought the music goat was finally receding filled the air and the Dolomites. The Snow Queen then ascended rather than just returning. In the last individual alpine event of the Games, Mikaela Shiffrin recaptured her crown under the sharp limestone peaks of the Italian Alps. She won more than simply the gold medal in the slalom at the Olympics. She won it with an almost magical degree of accuracy. She defeated Camille Rast of Switzerland, her closest competitor, by a staggering 1:50 seconds. In comparison, it is the third largest win margin in Olympic slalom music history. There was more to this medal than simply another one for the trophy cabinet. The Gold Award of Clarity was this. The greatest skier of all time chose to push back as she gazed into the depths of her own uncertainty. The scene was breathtaking. A performance that seemed to be a spiritual awakening took place against the cathedral-like background of the jagged Dolomites. Her journey from hopelessness to Olympic music champion serves as a testament to the human spirit's tenacity. How can a damaged music mind be repaired in a few days? Despite finishing in 11th place, Mikaela didn't disappear. She didn't attribute it to her music equipment or the ice. Rather, she explained what she refers to as the procedure. She had a direct discussion with her coach and mother, Eileen Shiffrin, about why her timing wasn't right. She acknowledged that recollections of her Beijing 0-for-6 performance and the pain of her collision in Vermont during the previous season had turned her thoughts into a hamster wheel. The diagnosis was straightforward, but the indecision was terrible. Mikaela's subconscious was being cautious because of her abdominal puncture wound and the grieving fog she had been through since her father's passing. She was competing at 95% capacity in a sport where 101% is needed to win gold. She acknowledged that she needed to figure out how to transform her anxious energy into intensity. She needed to start tormenting the mountain instead of showing it respect. Nervous energy was evident on the morning before the slalom. With her eyes closed and her body twitching, she performed her typical self-talk while standing at the start gate, visualizing each gate of the 60-turn circuit. She spoke of images of crashes, recollections, music of anguish, and the sensation of frightening ideas penetrating her head. She didn't flee from them, however. Accepting the fear as a necessary component of the rite, she chose to dance with the person she brought. She had given up on attempting to be flawless. Her intention was to use violence. The world witnessed a different Mikaela Shiffrin as she pushed off for the first run. There was no longer any latency. There was hope again. The slalom is a dance that is done on the edge of a knife. In all sports, it demands the quickest response, music times. The capacity to travel at highway speeds while processing dozens of barriers every second. Shiffrin was a brilliant blue and white blur in the first run. She dominated rather than merely led. She survived a near-death incident early in the course when she clipped a gate, which would have sent a less skilled skier reeling. Rather, she found her rhythm by using the touch. She was 0.82 seconds ahead of Lena Dare of Germany as she crossed the finish line. That is a chasm, not a lead, in the world of professional slalom. Since 1960, it was the biggest first-run lead in an Olympic women's slalom. However, her face music in the finish region was the true tale. She wasn't sulking. She was grinning. She seemed as if she had just let out her breath for the first time in 4 years. She claimed to reporters that she had the impression that she was skiing that day. She had been barely getting by on Sunday. She was stealing the course's strength with music that day. The greats are distinguished by this transition from survival mode to performance mode. She was aware that she had gained clarity even if she did not win gold. She had shown herself that she was still welcome. But belonging was not the aim as the sun started to drop over the Dolomites for the last run. The gold was what she desired. The strain of an Olympic second run is sufficient to cause most competitors' legs to collapse. Shiffrin was forced to wait at the summit as the greatest skiers in the world recorded scorching times. Her colleague from America, Paula Moltzen, had just jumped from 28th to 8th position with the quickest second run of the day. The only lady within a second of Mikaela was Lena Derry. However, Dare straddled the very first pole as she rushed out of the gate. Music. Her dreams of winning a gold medal vanished in a burst of plastic and orange netting. The crowd became quiet as Mikaela pushed out on the last sprint. On the slope, she was the last skier. She increased her lead rather than just managing it. She was pushing the boundaries of what was feasible on skis since she was skiing so aggressively. Mikaela Shiffrin discovered a piece of equipment that is unavailable to other people in the middle portion of the course, when the ice is the harshest and the slope is the steepest. Her feet twitched like a jackrabbit, but her upper body remained still, like a statue in a storm. With a total time of 1 minute 39:10, she crossed the finish line. The difference over silver medalist Camille Rast was 1.5 seconds. She covered her face in her gloves, fell into the snow, and remained there. It was more than simply exhaustion. The crushing expectation music that has accompanied her since 2018 was completely released. She didn't search for the cameras when she eventually raised her head. She searched for Eileen, her mother. It took 12 years for them to embrace on the sidelines. Mikaela Music used the term clarity often in the minutes after her triumph. She said that realizing that it doesn't matter whether she wins or loses gave her clarity. She came to the realization that neither she nor the mountain owed each other anything. She won the gold with this psychological trick. She let her body perform what it had been taught to do for 25 years by letting go of the desire for the medal. She began skiing for the emotion, stopped for legacy, and stopped for the sponsors. She is the most successful American alpine skier in history with her gold medal, her third music Olympic gold. However, she said that it felt like a fresh start. This victory in Milan signifies a complete circle recovery process after the sadness of losing her father Jeff Shiffrin in 2020 music and the Beijing calamity in 2022. She spoke about how sorrow is a line that you keep moving forward rather than a circle you shut. As the medal was put around her neck, she said that her father was on her mind. She is no longer just the most successful skier in history. The most resilient person is her. She has shown that, if you have the clarity to see the way through, you can be at your lowest point one day and at your highest point within 72 hours. By tackling her worries in little doses until the mountain seemed familiar again, she likened her return to exposure treatment. Officially, the controversy is finished with this gold medal. The best alpine skier of all time is Mikaela Shiffrin. She now has more World Championship medals than anybody in history, 108 World Cup victories, and 3 Olympic golds. However, it's not the music numbers that make her the GOAT. It's the aspect of comeback. The majority of athletes would have retired after a puncture injury such to the one she had at Killington, which she claims was more traumatic than the death of her father. After Beijing's defeat, the majority of music would have left to protect their honor. Shiffrin, however, continues to appear. As of right now, she has received individual gold medals in 3 distinct music decades: Milano 2026, Pyeongchang 2018, and Sochi 2014. In the history of the Winter Games, this is the greatest interval between consecutive gold medals in the same event. She has withstood many ski eras, equipment modifications, and a new wave of younger, quicker competitors who have dedicated their whole lives to attempting to ski as fast as Mikaela. People are referring to her Milan triumph as the ultimate Olympic-size exhale. She has now won her 8th season-long slalom championship, solidifying her position as the discipline's unquestioned ruler. Despite being the only member of the Century Club of Skiing, she maintains her modest emphasis. She expressed to reporters her desire for her legacy to be one of promoting not just the hardware but also the lovely emotions of the sport and music. She wants to expand the ski racing tent so that more people may see the enthusiasm that goes into it. The bit of metal around Mikaela Shiffrin's neck is not what will determine her success, musically, in 2026. It has to do with the heart. She demonstrated to a worldwide audience, and particularly to her tens of millions of supporters, that it's okay to acknowledge when you're having trouble with your music. As long as you don't remain there, it's okay to feel hopeless for a while. As she stood on the platform in the Italian Alps, her perseverance and commitment to inclusion were evident. She also didn't seem to be a machine. She seemed to be a lady who had successfully fought a battle within herself. During the week, she quoted Nelson Mandela as stating that establishing an atmosphere in which we may all thrive is what constitutes peace. She created that atmosphere for herself in Milan. She refused to be defined by stories based on a narrow knowledge of the sport. Her performance of her turns, music, and her perseverance in continuing to show up were what identified her. Even though Mikaela Shiffrin placed 11th on Sunday, she reminded everyone why they were watching the Olympics in the first place on Wednesday. We saw the human spirit's refusal to be subdued. The slalom is finished. There is clarity. The GOAT has her gold, too. She owns Cortina. The legacy is irrevocably set. Finally, Mikaela Shiffrin is at peace.